You know, K9, I don't think there's a planet quite like this one. The architecture is simply sublime. I mean, look at the restoration work. Truly worthy of a jelly baby, if I do say so myself, and I do say so myself. Look at this window alone. Clearly not masquerading the fact that this is actually a Gothic cathedral hiding a spaceship that landed here maybe 12 months ago in the BBC props department. No, this is truly magnificent. Not a single sign of decay in sight. Oh! Back, thou fiend! What is your name?
Vampire.
Is that your name or is it your species?
It's not species.
Then what is your name? I'm genuinely interested.
I am Bob!
Oh, no! You know, why are you wailing in such terror and such agony?
My tooth. It hurt.
Why?
It hurt.
Why, Bob? I beg of thee, tell me why.
I have tooth decay!
You know, in all my time, K9, on this planet, on any planet, you know, I've never met a monster so malevolent, so evil as the BBC, force-feeding this innocent, this defenseless, this so lonely because it has no friends vampire, defending itself, being forced Ribena simply because the BBC couldn't be bothered. Oh, dear God! I'm gonna chase! Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the fourth story from Doctor Who Season 18, the collection from the classic series, and that is State of Decay. So yeah, sorry for a bit of delay from this review from the last review. This was mainly because I knew it would probably be futile releasing a video amidst the Big Finish celebration, the big live stream. I knew anyone who would watch these videos would probably be watching the Big Finish live stream. But here I am, a bit late, but here we are anyway. Today I'm going to be reviewing the State of Decay, as I mentioned earlier, and if you're new to these sort of videos, I divide this into the good and the bad. So we'll start off with the good, and then we'll move on to the bad. I had a lot of mixed feelings out of the gate after watching this story. I wasn't quite sure what to think about this story, as it sort of seems like a bit of a mishmash of different tones, first of all, I do want to emphasise the good points before we get on to that. So I did think the location was very well captured. Like, it's created a great atmosphere throughout the story, particularly in the woods and the stuff with the sort of smoke. It sort of seemed misty and sort of something that wasn't quite right. Particularly the bits with the bats, which I thought was wonderfully done. Tom and Lala have great chemistry in this story, I felt. Particularly in this, because they spend quite a bit of the time together in this story compared to recently. They've been split up a bit. But they would spend a lot of time together in this story, whereas Adric was sort of doing the sort of stuff that Romana would normally do off by herself. So I thought it was nice to see them together again. Yeah, I did say that although it was a bit of a mishmash of different tones, I did think the themes worked quite well. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. Yeah, and it does feel quite, like, the plot works quite well as well, and it fits into the sort of tone of the series, a much darker tone, a more serious tone, the sombre acting that Tom Baker was definitely going for in this story. The models and the VFX of the spaceship were also very good. I thought the sort of what seems at first to be a castle looks much like a spaceship, but sort of hidden. So it's sort of supposed to look like a grand castle, but we also know that it very resembles a sort of BBC props department spaceship. The giant vampire at the end as well, I thought worked really well. The sort of visual effect of the hand coming up and the rocket coming back down to shoot it at the end, I thought was very well executed at the end. The atmosphere and the sort of gothic set design does work, and sort of like an almost cathedral-like building, and with the architecture and stuff, I thought really set the tone of the story quite well, because you're supposed to think of vampires being quite gothic and sort of creepy, and there's quite a strong relationship, I think, between vampires and sort of religion, particularly if you look back at it and so on. It's sort of, you can defend yourself with holy water, and it sort of has that sort of very gothic tone to it that I thought I kind of liked that. I think it worked. And it does feel quite transferred from that sort of silliness that I thought they'd had in like season 17 when Doug and Silence is in charge. I thought it was really quite ridiculously silly at points. Although I know it was a good within good intentions, they were trying to appeal to kids and stuff. But I just thought it was a bit overdone towards the end. But I do think that this story, it feels very much like one of the earlier 1970s stories, like the Brain of Morbius or The Planet of Evil, where it's sort of dark and sort of has the kind of darkness that you could only I think it goes as dark as it can, given its situation, that it's not really allowed to go that dark in terms of like its wider appeal. I think I do disagree with the fact that people were saying at the time that this series was more aimed at older children rather than younger children. I don't feel that at all. I think that doesn't really work. I think this is actually there's nothing particularly threatening about the entire story, and it just doesn't really. I know they were aiming to capture an older audience, but as a member of that age, I don't see why that was really intended in that way. It doesn't feel any different in terms of like what I watch is apart from Doctor Who. I don't think it would fit in with the kind of tone that they're trying to go with. It doesn't like I guess the best comparison you could try and draw to is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that's probably why it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't quite feel like a Buffy the Vampire show, which is kind of what they were trying to aim for. It still feels like a tea time show. It doesn't feel that dark, but I do think it works. Moving on to the bad, like the proper bad. I know I've been quite negative up to this point, but we're moving on to proper bad now. So, one of the reasons why I thought that this doesn't really fit into that sort of the angsty tone that they were trying to go for, is that the vampires themselves do feel acted quite poorly. Like, they didn't feel threatening at all. They didn't have a sort of menacing feel about them. I just thought it didn't really work in that respect. They sort of seemed like they just stood and posed, and they didn't really do anything that monstrous or scary. They just showed off their fangs and sort of went, "Rah, we're scary," and that's pretty much all they did. There was no cunning plan really at all. I don't know what the plan was of this story, what the vampires were trying to achieve. I guess take people's blood and fuel it for our ship, but it doesn't feel like the vampires are trying to do anything in this story, if I'm honest. It doesn't really feel like there's any point to this story, really. I mean, why is it called State of Decay, for example? I mean, what was the actual decay in this story? Was it tooth decay? Was it the decay of the BBC's budget? Well, it was, to be fair, out of all the stories, I can't really complain about the budget on this one, because it does actually look very good. And it has aged better than most classic Doctor Who, to be fair. Particularly, a lot of the time when they don't spend so much on the budget, it tends to age better, actually. I think stories like the Aztecs, which clearly, particularly historicals, I think they don't have so much money spent on them as like you'd think, but I think they still look and age much better, actually, because when they try to do something expensive and top of the market at the time, by the time we watch it now, it sort of doesn't work anymore. Like, for example, like the CGI that they use in TV, like in a few years' time, that's not going to have aged well. Go back, I think it was Ace Cooper pointed out on his Twitter feed, he'd watched Small Worlds and for a Torchwood episode, and there's this CGI sort of fairy, sort of goblin type creature in that episode. I remember it, and the CGI for that, I don't think I was anywhere near as unsettled as people at the time watched it, because I watched it obviously before he watched it, but I had watched it before. Didn't feel that scary. In fact, I think stories like that have aged worse because of the overuse of CGI, which has obviously developed much better or much more in recent years. So I think stories like that have aged more than stories like this, where they use more mundane, like, natural things. I do think the vampires with their sort of weird makeup was a bit 1980s, and that did strike me as quite goth in that respect. Adric seems quite out of character in the story. I know they're still working on his character, to be fair. This is his second story. But he sort of feels like later on he becomes more... I believe the idea they were going for was Artful Dodger, and it sort of didn't work. Mainly because... I don't really know. I can't really judge them, really, because this was only his second story, and they were still figuring out his character. And if they did give the basic plan to the writer of this story... that he was an Artful Dodger type character, and that wasn't what they ended up going with, clearly, because he ended up being sort of quite an intelligent child, who's also, I think Adric later on sort of feels more out of place in stories, and sort of feels like a bit of an outsider. He says it in his final story, Earthshock. He said he's sick of being an outsider, and that's one of the reasons why he wants to leave, because Tegan and Nyssa are always teasing him, which I think, in terms of this story, doesn't feel that way at all. Like, if I'd seen this story in Earthshock, I would have thought, that's a very interesting position to come from being in an episode before where you were stealing bread and soup and whatever. Yeah, he just seems very out of character. I can put that down, however, to the fact that they were still developing their character. So overall, I do think this was quite a good story. I'm not really sure at all about the story. The plot seems quite weak, but it looks visually quite rich. The character work is good overall, mainly, apart from maybe Adric, but again, they were still developing his character. So overall, 7.5 out of 10, mainly because I thought it was just better than The Leisure Hive, but I don't think it was as good as Full Circle. So I have actually left a ranking here on the overall score of the series so far. So the overall score of the series so far, the season, is 29 out of 40, which stands at 72%, and my ranking is as follows. In fourth... I feel like one of those political leaders, just like, I'm announcing the results now. One must announce the results. In fourth place, with 6 votes out of the available 10, was the Leisure Hive. This is so corny. In third place, tied with Meglos, is the State of Decay, with 7.5 out of their available votes out of 10. I feel like this is a really soft. If you find this relaxing, I feel like I should just be like this in future videos. But then, in first place, with a total available votes of 10, is Full Circle with 8 votes. Does this feel really... Because I can't see any of this, because I don't know what it looks like. Does this look alright to you, or does this look really weird? Because I would not blame you if this was really weird. But yeah, so that's my current ranking of Season 18. We're halfway through the season. I know, it's crazy. I've had this set for nearly 2 months, and we're halfway through the season. I'm kidding, I've watched it all. Spoiler, I know what happens at the end. But yeah, we are working through these. And now, as I am now on holiday, I'm free. You can probably expect more frequent content. The only reason I didn't really upload over this weekend is that Big Finish live stream, as I said before. But if you liked this video, please leave a like, comment, tell me your thoughts on Full Circle if you've seen it. Oh, it's not Full Circle, it's State of Decay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Tell me your thoughts on Full Circle as well if you see that story. Why not? I mean, I said it first. But yeah, tell me your thoughts on Season 18. Obviously, I should have said spoilers, but it's a bit late now. I mean, this story is nearly 14 years old. So yeah, it's about 40 years old. Yeah, it's a bit odd. In fact, next year will be exactly 40 years old. That's... okay, that's a bit odd. Well, yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe down below if you want to see more content, get regular updates. I believe my next video will be the Warriors Gate review. So you can look forward to that. And goodbye.